Hey everybody, my name is Ali. I'm a grateful alcoholic. Phil, thank you so much for that for your gracious invitation to you and the group. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate in my recovery tonight, and thank you for your kind words. One of the beautiful blessings of, okay, so so calamities happen in my life, I perceive calamities, and my instant reaction is to go into self. Why I don't like what's happening, how I'm affected, what's going to happen to me. Thank God for the path that we have, for the path that we're on, because instantly after that, sometimes not so instantly, but after that, the desires within to seek to be a better servant within whatever's happening. I think no other event in my short life in Alcoholics Anonymous has been a representation of this sort of statement than the pandemic and the Zoom era. Because I know when it hit, there was a lot of people, including myself at the beginning, that what's going to happen, no physical meetings. But man, if you seek hard enough, when I seek hard enough, truly, I see the hand of God everywhere, and the light of God just reached out and said, oh, not you broken kids. You guys need each other. It was like at once we found Zoom, and through Zoom, as Phil was saying, I've been sort of blessed to be really involved in putting out workshops, and one of the people anyways, and through our conference. And I get to meet a lot of people and converse with a lot of people from all over the world, from all ages and sobriety. And everybody talks about what a blessing this has been. And they're able to attend meetings they couldn't have otherwise attended because of their situation, and hear and experience our big book and our path on a different level of depth, So it's been a beautiful thing, this Zoom. And I think if God sees fit, it'll stay with us to some degree as we go back to physical meetings. So anyhow, that's my little spiel on that. So, one of the blessings that I've had, the point was this, that I've got to meet you guys and people like Phil and people, the other brothers and sisters on the path. And it's just been such a beautiful experience for me. So thank you for allowing me to be here. And my sponsor is Butch M from Toronto. I think you guys had him a couple of weeks ago. I think Phil was telling me here. I want to give my condolences to I forget, man, my short-term memory is bad, but the gentleman who, long-term member of this group that has passed away. And I hear something like that and it makes me present to what's really important in life. Because what I heard the gentleman say is that he was a kind man. And is that our path? Isn't that how, like, such a representation of Alcoholics Anonymous, that what a reminder that all we're doing in this life is just basically, as another teacher says, walking each other home. And wouldn't it be beautiful if we just did it with some kindness with each other, And a program like this, Alcoholics Anonymous, takes a selfish, self-absorbed, angry, depressed, broken human being like me and gives me a chance to be able to do that, Just a little bit better every day. Not a perfect path. Just a little bit better every day. And long-timers like the gentleman who passed away and some of the long-timers that are in this meeting that I know, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for you. If it wasn't for I wasn't in and out of this program for 7 years, so I wasn't one of those souls that got it right away, If it wasn't for your kindness, for your handshakes at the front of the church basements, for your smiles, for your kindness. If it wasn't for you buying me groceries when I spent all my rent money and grocery money and I was crying at meetings. If it wasn't for you picking me up time after time. If it wasn't for you spending time with me in the freezing Toronto winter in the middle of January when I was new and you wanted to tell me about Alcoholics Anonymous, what the power of God has done in your life. I just remember, man, it was you. You stood out there and withstood the cold and you talked to me about God, about this program for about 20 minutes, half an hour. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. I'm so grateful for the long-timers, because you guys, what you do is you live this program long before I knew what the 12 steps were. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And one of the things that the long-timers have taught me, and I've gotten a little better at, is that this is not a path, this is a path towards, that's a path of progress towards humility, kindness, and love. Not a path of perfection, as I fall asleep to sometimes in this program, even in sobriety, And I'll tell you, it's manifested that delusion that there's a path of perfection and looking good, in life or in AA, has got me a few times, blindsided me a few times. And one of the times it got me, I ended up taking a couple of Percocets, prescription pills, right before my 5-year medallion. I was sober. I've been separated from alcohol January 4th of 2012. I've been in the middle of the circle and triangle since then. Haven't left you guys. But in 2016, I took a couple of Percocets. I never knew my dry date. I'm coming to up to another 5 years, this September. But the point of that is that how cunning, baffling this disease is, this illness of the mind, body, and soul is, that around that time for about a year, I stopped sharing myself honestly with the people that, at least the circle around me, I'm not talking about airing dirty laundry in meetings. I'm just talking about with my sponsor. And I stopped sharing myself honestly. I stopped sharing from the wound that I'm hurting at times. And this disease of alcoholism knows my secrets. All the stuff that I just sweep under the carpet, it waits there patiently waiting for a moment. So anyways, one thing led to another, and I was, so that happened. And I'm so grateful. I guess I had enough spiritual currency in the bank that I didn't go out drinking and dying, The next day I renewed my dry date. Whew. I'm sober because of a loving God. I'm sober because of a loving God, man, because of a forgiving God. Many things in my life are hazy to me, but that's crystal clear to me. And if the word God bothers you or arises an antipathy in you, as the big book talks about, please forgive me. It's not my intention to do that, because I know exactly how you're feeling. I know exactly where you've been because I was there. I didn't come into these rooms believing and trusting anything other than my thinking and my feelings. That's what I trusted, right? And because I was born in a country that a religious government took over a few decades ago, and these guys started to kill in the name of God, rape and torture people in the name of God, imprison some of my extended family members in the name of God. So that's partially the kind of the concept, the idea of God that I brought to you guys to deal with. And the beautiful old timers, they wouldn't miss a beat as I'm complaining to them about God and your 12 steps and all this kind of stuff, Meanwhile, check this out. I'm dying in and out of this program for 7 years. Can't stay sober, dying. And I'm arguing with you about your solution. And you're sober and happy. Isn't that insane? As I'm doing that, what they would do is they wouldn't argue with me. They were just cool as cucumbers, the old timers, the elder statesperson, sit me down. Hey, Ali, it's okay. Have a cup of coffee. Don't worry about it. Listen, have a seat. Why don't you come up with your own conception of God? That's what they would tell me. So if you're at that place where the word God bothers you, I'm going to ask you humbly, just come up with your own conception of God at least for the remainder of this one-way spiritual conversation, at least, whether it's the soul of a loved one that's passed on or the consciousness of the collective consciousness of this group with a power greater than I could ever be, whatever, it doesn't matter. In fact, to be honest with you, the actual word God doesn't mean anything to me. It's not the word that I'm concerned with. It's the power behind the word. I need power because on my own, I am powerless. I don't have enough power to stay sober or to be a good human being. Can't do it, man. Can't do it. I have a lifetime of evidence. I just can't do it. I was born in Iran in 1976. I was born in a family that lived at extremes. And one extreme was love and joy and laughter and big, huge extended family encouragement. I had a good childhood. I did. Partially. The other part of it is the other extreme. My father's addiction and violence and hitting and bleeding and fear and chaos, man. Just chaos. I didn't know which father I'm going to wake up to. I didn't know which dad, which family I'm going to wake up to. I was always scared as a little kid. Always. When I think back, like in hindsight, I see it. I didn't know that's what was happening. I couldn't unpack it that way. But as I see it today, even as a little guy, what I used to do is try to use things outside of me to fill this void inside of me, to make me feel better about me. Whether it was the approval of kids on the street, love of parents or extended family members, whether it was a relationship or two, or a car or money. When I got older, I was able to get those things, But see, the problem with the kind of alcoholic that I am, none of those toys, those shiny new toys, lasted. I would obtain what I thought I could obtain that would make me feel better about me. After a short period of time, I still feel the same. In fact, I feel worse because I'm now frustrated. I'm confused. I'm depressed. Does everybody feel like this? I didn't know. In 1986, Iran and Iraq were fighting at that time. I was born in Iran. So Iran and Iraq were fighting at that time for about 5 years, I think, since 81. They were fighting along the border cities. In 86, around that time, they started to bomb each other's capital cities. So the first set of bombings that the Saddam Hussein dropped in Tehran, capital city of Iran, where we live, first set of bombings landed within a few kilometers of our house, kilometer radius, right? And what that feels like when a bomb drops within a few kilometers of your house is that the entire house would shake. It feels like an earthquake. Windows would break. It's pretty frightening, you know? But as a kid, I guess my sister and I, she's about 5 years younger than me, we were too young, too naive to understand the gravity of the situation. Like, we're going to probably die, you know? But so we would be scared, but we'd also sort of look outside, watch anti-aircraft artillery. It was a little bit fun at the same time, you know? But my father and mother, my father was in his opium dream, so he was never scared. You know, he was just, whew. But my mother was scared. My mother became so frightened that she ended up in a mental hospital for about a month. And my dad said, you know, forget this. So he locked up the house. Nobody would trade in real estate. At wartime, nobody's buying real estate, right? So he locked up the house, gathered all the money that he could. We were a middle-class family. We didn't come to the West for money. We were doing okay. So, but for the grace of a loving God, within 4 months after deciding, we ended up in this beautiful country, Canada. At the age of 10, with you amazing people. I'm a Canadian Iranian. I'm proud to be both, you know? We landed in a country that, first from my experience, open-minded, kind, and loving people, where there's freedom of opportunity, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. You know, and you would think that somebody from my situation would be ecstatic now, but that wasn't the case for me. See, what happened was that my father's addiction followed us here. So the chaos and the hitting and everything followed us here. Now, all that insanity is around us, and we don't even have family members to lean on anymore. We're just alone. Me, my sister, my mom, and my dad, right? Don't speak a word of English. Don't know anything about the culture. I think maybe the most important thing to how I see it today anyways, other than my father's addiction following us here, is that my brain followed me here. My sick brain followed me here at the age of 10. Not an alcoholic yet. Obviously, I have to drink and have a problem with it. But I guess one way to describe it is that the isms of alcoholism followed me here pre-drink. When what would happen is that my brain would cherry pick evidence in my life why I'm not enough, why I'm never going to be enough. You don't speak a word of English, you're not enough. You look different than the kids on the street. They make fun of you. They beat you up. You're not enough. Your dad's an addict. He beats you up. You're not enough. You're never going to amount to anything. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. What an illness that continues to point to the outside for the way I feel inside. No wonder why in my entire life I continue to search for the outside, for the solution to heal whatever this is, right? You know, until I found alcohol. See, I don't believe that I'm an alcoholic because anymore. And I'm not telling all those background stories as a reason for my alcoholism. If that's what you believe, that's okay. That's just not my experience anymore, you know? Because the thing is, I would come to these rooms and meet some of you beautiful people with your generosity. You would share with me, right? And some of you would share with me about your perfect childhoods. The fact that nobody hit anybody, nobody really drank, perfect parents and happiness and joy, except what you would say is that, Ali, for some reason, there's a thread that went inside my story too, that I just felt like I wasn't good enough. And alcohol treated that. And I'm an alcoholic despite my perfect upbringing. So I start to think, wow, perhaps it's an inside-out thing. Perhaps it's not an outside-in thing, you know? And when I woke up in the program a little bit, like spiritually woke up a little bit down the road, what I got to see is that my younger sister, a little bit younger than me, 5 years younger than me, she experienced the same trauma as I did as a kid, but she's not an alcoholic, she's not an addict. And she's tried alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, everything, pretty much, almost everything under the sun. And when any of these substances started to hurt her life, she put it down. See, she has a problem my sister had a problem with alcohol. You know what her solution was? Put it down. No more problem. And then she sought solution in psychiatrists and therapists. I don't have an alcohol problem. I have an alcohol solution. It's a different story. It's a different story, you know? So, and please don't listen. If you've had, I don't ever want to like sort of make, what's the word I'm looking for? Like not demean, but just make light of people that have had trouble. No. I don't know any human being that's not broken, first of all. And anybody that's experienced trauma as a child, like myself, like my sister, will be wounded. We're going to be wounded, right? But what I'm saying is that wound necessarily doesn't make someone an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic because I like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive because, see, alcohol fills that God-sized hole that I was trying to fill my entire life with external things to such a degree. It fills it to such a degree that I chased it to the gates of insanity and death over about 10 years after it stopped working for me. I'm an alcoholic because of the effect. And I can't stop. When I say 10 years after it stopped working for me, so for our newer friends, perhaps for some of our visiting friends, so I'm assuming it's an open meeting, what that looked like was this, was that for about the last 10 years of my drinking, I would drink, my body would be drunk, my mind still racing, I'm still full of fear, I still want to kill myself. It used to treat that. What happened? It abandoned me, yet I'm still picking it up. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. I started to drink at the age of 16, and I could tell you that right then and there, I felt like I fit in my own skin. I had a spiritual experience with alcohol. Alcohol was my higher power for the longest time. And I'm not going to give a big drunk a lot. It just, I can tell you that at the age of 16 when I started, I had a lot of potential. From everybody here, you kept on telling me I had potential. From school to sports, a potential, right? Woo, world of potential like this. At the end of it, 2 years later, my world was like this. In a small motel room, Southeast Toronto, with a bottle of vodka and needles in my arms and all the ugly extracurricular activity that follows that kind of lifestyle. Wanted to die every minute of the day. I just wanted to die all the time. I just didn't know how. You know? That's where it took me. And this disease terrifies me, and I want to continue to be terrified by it. I want to continue to come to these meetings and hear you guys talk about it. I want to continue to talk to people that keep going in and out and talk about their step one experience. I want to continue, if God blesses me, to continue to have men that I sponsor, that I talk to them, I take them through the steps so I can be present to how powerful this illness is. It terrifies me. Every part of it terrifies me. The fact that I have mind, what is it, body, mind, and spirit, right? Physical allergy to alcohol. I had no idea that I was suffering from an allergy of the body, that my body reacted differently than 90% of the people out there to the consumption of alcohol. I didn't know. I thought that day when I was in my parents' condo and the drink was on me because I took a drink and my eyes went and I had to go. When my mom grabbed and bear hugged my ankles to keep me from going because she didn't want her son to die. I thought when I pulled my leg from her hands and I kicked her in the shoulder and I stole her wallet, I thought I was heartless. I thought I was stupid. I thought I was weak. The physical allergy explained many things for which I could not otherwise account. I'm sick. I have an illness. Once I take it in me, I don't know, bets are off, you know? And couple that physical allergy with a mental twist, they call it, a mental blind spot, the obsession of the mind, the big book calls it, right? That I can't trust my brain. The organ in my body is supposed to categorize situations and tell me not to drink that, don't do that, don't go there. The drink has destroyed your life for the last 20 years. You don't need to do it this time. Cold sober, stone cold sober, I pick up a drink. After having left the hospital for suicide attempt, razor blades to my wrist, my dad's Tylenol 3s, 40 of them with a bottle of vodka. My mother finds me in the emergency room, in the psychiatrist's office 2 days after. They let me out. Ding, ding, ding. A drink would fix that. I'm taking a drink, stone cold sober. You know how many times I've done that? Cunning, baffling, and powerful. Powerless, man. Whether I'm sober or I'm drinking, I am powerless over alcohol. Step one never told me that I can't drink. Never said that. My younger sister probably told me many times, you can't drink, you can't handle it. What step one has told me is that I will drink. That's what makes me an alcoholic. Left to my own power, I will drink. You know. Meanwhile, I'm dying in this spiritual malady, gangrene of the soul. Everything about me is dark and wounded, and I can't breathe. Bill Wilson describes it in many different ways. One of the ways that I really like is that bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand all around me, you know? Just can't breathe, man. Life hurts. The present moment hurts. I always want to be over there in the tomorrow, or just worried about or regret of yesterday, or just, you know what I mean? The present moment hurts. The now is never okay. Confused by life. Don't know how you live it. All the people that I perceive that are happy, that I just, it used to blow my mind that people have, you know, relationships and they stay together and they get engaged and married and then houses and jobs and promotions and mortgages. And man, this disease got me early and it got me fast. I had nothing. I never got a chance to build anything. I was a leech in society. I was a loser, you know? But I belong with you guys. That's a beautiful thing. I belong with you guys, you know? Broken toys. Another speaker says, Alcoholics Anonymous is with broken toys. This is so true. It's so true, you know? God in his infinite mercy has sent me many teachers through the years, many angels through the years, man. One of the angels that, relating to this program anyways, that 12-stepped me was Saeed. Beautiful man he is. 12 years he had at the time. In 2006, he 12-stepped me. And he introduced me to you guys, and I fell in love with you guys. I fell in love with the joyousness, the camaraderie, the happiness in the meetings. I fell in love with the fact that I finally belong somewhere, as in like there's other people that are like me, that drink like me. You guys talked about your feelings and your thoughts, and they matched mine. But I was too ashamed to talk about them, but you did freely, and you laughed at it. You know what I mean? So I fell in love with you guys. And I was coming to these meetings for about 5-6 months, ecstatic, on cloud nine, on a pink cloud, whatever you want to call it, right? And then all of a sudden, after a few months, I guess the disease in my brain woke up and started to, you know, you're a loser. Look at what you're doing. Are you really an alcoholic? You have nothing in your life. And without a solution, ding, 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 a drink would fix that. I was in and out for 7 years in this program. Dying, man. Dying. 7 years in this program. And I thought I could get something for nothing, because I would come to a lot of meetings because I would hear things, right? But selective hearing, I guess, you know, or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, so what I would hear is go to 90 meetings in 90 days and you'll be okay. Make sure you get a home group and you're really active in that home group. You'll be okay. Go to fellowship, talk to people, talk to your sponsor a lot. You'll be okay. I did all of those things and I kept on drinking and I was just confused and I was just either angry at meetings or really depressed, right? See, and I like analogies. I use analogies a lot. It just dumbs things down for me, you know, and I've always been in sports. So if I want to get in physical shape, I don't go join a gym and go 90 times in 90 days in that gym and flex in front of the mirror and go home. I don't go to that gym and talk to people that have fantastic physiques and how did you do that? Can you show me? And then go home. I'm not going to get in physical shape. I need to go to the gym, but I need to jump on the treadmill. I need to lift the weights. I need to take some actions. I missed the boat on the steps. See, and please don't misunderstand. All the things that I mentioned are a crucial part of my recovery. Of course they are. Home group, service at home group, fellowship when I can, you know, all the things that we do. Sponsorship, but all those things point to something. They point to the solution of the 12 steps as outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Right? That's what gets us recovered and happy and, you know, living a juicy life. I missed the boat on that whole thing. God sent a teacher in my path. And this teacher opened up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with me. And I remember we started to work the steps, and I want to share this with you because my entire path has been just peppered with ego and resurgence of ego and fumbling and stumbling and mistakes, you know, and I believe that's what makes us useful to each other. That brokenness makes us very useful to each other. So that's why I'm going to share my mistakes, right? My fumblings and stumblings. So I got to 9 months of sobriety. I got to step 9, right? And I stopped meeting with my sponsor. I didn't make one single amends because at the same time, my ego was waking up in the background. I had no idea that it was happening. That was building in the background because I got the job that I really liked and I got the girlfriend that I thought I loved. And they started to tell me that I'm not an alcoholic. Look at what I'm doing. There was no God involved. I'm doing all this. And for about 3 or 4 months, I stopped coming to AA ever so slowly. And I feel like Fred in the big book, like my own version of it, not a cloud in the horizon. Everything was beautiful. All of a sudden, hey, you're not an alcoholic. You've been good. Just go watch the fights with the boys in the bar. One drink. That's all I wanted. 1 pint, 3 years. One drink, 3 years. Some of the worst pain and depression and a couple of suicide attempts. It's just bewilderment that I've ever experienced was in those 3 years. And I'll tell you from experience, it's a different kind of pain where you've tasted at least a little bit of the solution and you think you know where it is. You think you know what to do. You got a head full of AA, but your feet won't take you there. Ooh, that's painful. Oh, that's so painful. And my last drunk wasn't as bad as the 50 before then. I was renting a room in a men's recovery home. And again, busy in AA, really busy in AA. 4 months sober, no steps. So I went out drinking one night. Wasn't as bad as 50 before. Snuck back in because they would have kicked me out if they would have found out, right? I would have gone on the street. So snuck back in. I passed out and I came to. And I came to an incredible amount of pain. My joints were hurting. My skin was hurting. Like I had a 3rd-degree burn or something like that, My mind was racing. And the two thoughts that always used to come to visit me, came to visit me again. Why don't you take your own life? Why don't you take a drink? And I don't know what happened to me. I don't know. I know what happened to me. I had no part in it is what I'm saying. My knees bent. They hit that wooden floor. And I started to pray from the bottom of my soul, from the bottom of my heart. God, whoever you are, whatever you are, can you just please help me not be like this anymore? I just don't want to be like this anymore. I don't even know what I was praying for. I just don't want to be like this anymore. God in his infinite mercy. After that prayer, I'm still in a lot of pain in every way you can imagine. I didn't want to kill myself, and I didn't want to take a drink. That's called power of prayer, man. That's called a spiritual experience. It doesn't have to be rainbows and lollipops spiritual experiences. In pain, spiritual experience. In pain, God in his infinite mercy just grabbed me and just caressed me, brought me back to the sacred rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, put another teacher on my path. And this teacher opened the big book with me, and this sponsor started to go through it line by line, just the way it worked for me. We literally followed the black on the white. And please, if you're doing the steps in any other way, good on you, man. Good for you. Okay, this is not the only way, but how it worked for me was we went line by line through the big book. And I started to identify with what it means to be an alcoholic. I started to see myself as an alcoholic. I think that step one experience is so crucial. Maybe that's why I spend so much time talking about it. Because I started to see myself as an alcoholic, not just intellectually, because I was around, so I knew physical allergy, mental blank spot, but just also experientially. Because what happened to me experientially is that I conceded to my innermost self. That I am like Bill Wilson. Every door, every option that I knocked on to prove that I'm not one of you guys, shut in my face. I conceded to my innermost self that I'm hopeless and I'm powerless and I'm an alcoholic. And if this program can work for a gentleman like Bill Wilson, who's so far away from me in likeness, his race, when he lived, the age, all that kind of stuff. If I can see myself in him, then maybe there's hope for me too. Maybe this program will work if it's worked for my sponsor, for Bill Wilson, for all you guys, then maybe it can work for me too. And we start to work through the steps. And if it was an action taken through the big book, we would not stop. We would not go forward until that action was taken. We went through the inventory process. And I can tell you that for the first time ever at that time, I woke up. I woke up to this fact that everything that I'm complaining about, all the jealousies and I hate him and I hate her and the fears and the expectations and the blaming and the shame, all of that stuff. One common denominator. You're looking at him. It was me. It was me. I woke up to the fact that I was driving in Montreal with a map of Tokyo. My entire life when they had maps. Now it's like GPS, right? I'm going down one ways and hitting things and fumbling and stumbling and blaming you. But it was me. I woke up to that, I had a powerful experience in my step 6 and 7, my first round of the steps. Powerful God experience, man. I literally went into this inventory my first time with what felt like the world, weight of the world on my shoulders. And I just left there floating, breathing. Oh my God, it was so good. It's just able to breathe in the present moment, you know? And we started to go through the amends process in a quick period of time with my sponsor, my elders around me. I made every single amends that I could, and every single approach that I could at that time. And I can tell you with every single amends, I got a piece of my soul back. With every single amends, I grew up spiritually. That father that I told you about, the father that I hated, I made an amends to him. I sought truth and I woke up in truth. I experienced God when I stand in truth. I saw the truth, that the poor guy did the best he could with what he had. What you would tell me intellectually for years, it connected from my heart to my head. I woke up. I all of a sudden saw that at the age of 14, he was kicked out. He had to make it on his own in the streets. He became a man's man, self-made man. I saw all the things that he did for me. You know, financially, he always had my back. He gave me exactly what he had. I saw that, I saw that he was suffering from the same, he is still suffering from the same illness as I am. And I'm still blaming him for every failure of my life at the age of 36 for something that happened when I was a kid. I saw all that, you know? And then I saw what a love it takes. What an incredible amount of love it must take. An active addict that he was, with all the insecurities and fears that we have in sobriety, in the path, never mind active out there. He picked up 2 kids and a wife, came all the way across the world to a new culture, a new world, doesn't speak a word of English, left a high-paying job and recognition to mop floors, the floor of the pizza to make ends meet because he didn't want to spend all his money. He was afraid. And I was judging him on that, eh? I saw what a beautiful man he was. He is, with all his brokenness, you know? And I'm not condoning what was done as a kid. I'm not saying that's okay, but I'm saying I'm free. I'm free. And I got to make an amends. And I got to make an amends for all the chaos I caused in their lives. And him and my mom. What did I do as an active alcoholic, you know? For years I was, this is my trouble in life, actually. When I fall asleep, I demand from people things that they just don't have to give to me. I want them to be something that they're not. Why? For my comfort. Self-centered to the core. Self-centered to the core. He was never given those things that I wanted. But you know what? Who was? I was given them. And I give them to my son. You know who gave me that? Alcoholics Anonymous and the power of God. All the love and the patience and the kindness and the laughter and the joy, Alcoholics Anonymous poured into me, and I get to pour into my son. What a beautiful program that is. And I wouldn't be experiencing this if I didn't make amends to my dad. That's how important this is. This is a program about freedom, you know, not relief, about freedom. For me, it is anyways. For me, it is. And I got to, early on, I got to sponsor a lot of men. I got to sponsor really early in the program, actually. The purest form of sponsorship, as if showing, you know, someone who's sober at the 12th step, showing someone else how to stay sober through the 12th step, you know. At 3.5 months of sobriety, I was sponsoring. And let me tell you, I was scared and I didn't want to do that because I would tell my sponsor, what do I have to offer? And my elders, I guess they knew me enough for 7 years. They, you know, they thought I was really sicker than most maybe. So they probably talked to themselves and said, this kid's going to die if he doesn't at least try to pass this message on. You know, he's way too selfish. So when I would argue with them, they would tell me, that's interesting, Ali, because if Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob Smith had any rule written in stone that there's a must, you must have a year before sponsoring people, they would be dead, so would we. There would be no Alcoholics Anonymous. There would be no Alcoholics Anonymous, right? But they said your job is to pray and make yourself available, and God would do what God does. None of your business who you sponsor, if you do it or not. And I said, okay. So I would pray in the mornings. God, would you put someone in my path if you see fit? Because I don't want to drink and die. I want to pass these 12 steps to them. And God, in his infinite mercy, I ended up in a men's shelter, reading, sharing and reading 3 pages from the big book every week. And these men would share from the pain that they were in. And I would share the fact that 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, I was, as my last drink, and I was suicidal. I don't want to kill myself anymore. I'm happy a lot of times, you know. And these men would trust me because I would go back saying the same thing every week. I think they would trust me on some level because 4, 5, 6 months of sobriety is a little bit more tangible than 2 decades, perhaps, to some, you know. And they would come to me after the meeting and say, Ali, can you help us stay sober the way you have been? We're like, okay, sure. I'll take you through the big book. That's what I would do. And I'm a better sponsor today, obviously, I believe, because I have more life experience practicing principles, right? But I did the best I could. I don't know if any of those first set of men, those gifts from God, are sober. But you know who's sober? I stayed sober. I stayed sober. But isn't that the program, though? This language of love? It started from one man's desire to stay sober himself. That's when the program started. Bill Wilson was going to drink himself, walking back and forth in the Mayflower Hotel. Lost all his money. Business deal down the dump. Drink called him. And the spirit turns his gaze to the phone book. One thing leads to another, meets Dr. Bob for a supposed 15-minute conversation. Hours later, it's as if like the spirit, it's like God picked 2 of his broken kids, 2 of her broken kids, dropped them in this pond of life. And the ripple effects of it, we're all feeling and writing 85 years later. Ain't that beautiful, man? Language of love. From one alcoholic's desire to stay sober himself. So I'm telling you, if you're young in sobriety and if you're at the 12th step, stick around people that are going to fan that fire for you, man. Because I've been on fire since then. I've been on fire. Not living a perfect life. A lot of mistakes I'll talk about a little bit now. But I've been on fire for a desire, a deep desire for a deeper relationship with this power. On fire just to be a better human being today than I was yesterday. You know? And the first, I gotta tell you, the first couple of years of sobriety is sponsoring a lot of men speaking here and there, you know, and coming to these rooms and lying to you that the relationship with God is the most important relationship in my life. Lying to you. Didn't think I was lying though, but I was lying. Because if you want to see my belief system, really what I truly believe, watch my feet, not listening to anyone's words, watch their feet. So the relationship with God is the most important relationship in my life, right? An elder knew me, pulled me aside kindly, quietly, not in front of people embarrassing me. Ali, is that really true? I don't think it is. What other relationship in your life is important to you? I would say my wife. Okay, well, I want you to consider that if you gave your wife the same amount of time that you give God on a daily basis, she would divorce you. I was still doing that 2 years in. Please keep me sober in the morning. Thank you for keeping me sober at night. Little surrounding prayers. I'm reversing from in the car in the driveway. That's what I was doing. That was my relationship with God. And if that's what you're doing, that's fine. If it's working for you, God bless you, man. I'm just telling you, it's just my experience that this path is so broad, wide, deep, and roomy as I walk in. However, it's been my experience and the experience of my elders that every 24 hours that I take a humble step forward, this path gets narrower and narrower and narrower in a couple of ways. One of the ways put into this conversation, I can no longer get away with not doing what the big book says. Step 11 says, prayer and meditation. Constant conscious contact with this power. So from that day to this, there's been a prayer life around me that has built organically, a meditative life. I wake up early in the morning. I spend time with this power. Prayer, meditation, spiritual readings, you know, long time. To the best of my ability. I worship this power because without him, I am nothing. Throughout the day, I'm always praying. I'm always watching for selfishness, self-centeredness. My barometer for prayer, negative thought, negative feeling, pray. God, please remove the selfishness from me. Show me who would you have me be? What would you have me do? Turn my thoughts to someone I can help, you know? And I can't describe to you the feeling of joy and presence in the moment and happiness and ecstasy at times that I experience as a result of a relationship with this power, building a relationship with this power. I think more important, is that when times are tough and when there's valleys in life, I also can't describe to you sufficiently the feeling, the knowing, when I'm in the fetal position, in fear, in sadness, as I have been in recovery as well. I can't describe to you sufficiently that feeling and knowing that everything's going to be all right. That's God too. If God is everything, that he can't just be in the happy moments, man. He better be when I'm afraid to. He better be. He better be, because he is. He's everything, you know? The last 2 short years, man, life thrown like giant boulders on my wife and I. She's sober too. She celebrated 11 years on August 2nd. Life is throwing giant boulders at me, at my wife. And we separated for a little while. We almost got divorced. Cancers and deaths and business failure after business failure I had. Depression. I used to get outside help, inside help. Ever since I was a kid, depressive. That has transformed in the program with outside help as well, right? With depression. All of that stuff, all those valleys in life, what they've done is brought me back to the table with God for deeper experience. They caused a deeper surrender in me, you know? I remember my wife and I was separated for a little while. I was renting a room in a house. I want to be close to them so I can see my son. And this disease had me, man. I'm in the program and sponsoring people. This disease had me in self-blaming her for everything. All of a sudden, the two thoughts that hadn't come visited me for a long time, this is a few years ago, came to visit me. I think you need to take your life. You need to take a drink. In sobriety. Thank God for this loving God, man. So I pray, God, please move the selfishness. Show me who would you have me do? What would you have me do? And I did what you told me. I picked up the phone and I called another alcoholic. God dials in. And he starts to tell me, Ali, you need to write some inventory. You need to wake up, my friend. We do some work together. I woke up and I became free. And I became free. Led to a series of events that my wife and I got back together. But the important thing was I became free to the extent that I had accepted her and I may have to go our separate ways. But I got to be kind and co-parent with her. Because my troubles are on my own making, not her making. That's a delusion that I suffer from, you know? And the last few short years, I'll finish a couple minutes. The last few short years, all I've been doing with a lot of brokenness, a lot of mistakes, it's clean house, trust God and help others. Clean house, trust God and help others. And I've been literally in awe of this power. I've been in awe of the power of God in my life. How all the material things that I had zero of, bankrupt in every way, they've come. The car, the house, the job that I can help support my family, all of them, they've come, right? But that then it means something, but it doesn't have sufficient power to keep me sober, material things, external things. The priceless stuff have been the love of a good woman who's a soldier of God, who loves me for me, broken and all. I've never been totally honest with a woman in my life about everything, except me for me. What's been priceless is the fact that 14 years ago was my last suicide attempt, and my baby boy is turning 7 at August 25th. That is the best thing in my life. Talk about love. Talk about God. Talk about the manifestation of source. Talk about Alcoholics Anonymous at work. And I'm real good dad too. I'm a real good dad because of you, not because of me, you know, because of you. I'm happy a lot of times, you know. I go through my moments, but life is life. If you're new, thank you for being here. I have a lot of spiritual love for you, love. There's no other pure love but a spiritual love. Every other love has attachments to it. I have a lot of spiritual love for you. I think we all do in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I want to tell you something. All those priceless stuff that I mentioned to you and the external stuff, the disease that I suffer from, you may be suffering from the same one. I'm not sure if you can relate. The disease that I suffer from, none of that priceless stuff has a sufficient power to keep me sober, even the love of that boy, if I don't have a relationship with God and a current relationship with God, you know? Because I don't suffer from a drinking problem, as I told you. I suffer from alcoholism. It's a spiritual malady and it's a soul sickness in which on my own power, I want to crawl out of my own skin. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know my head from my butt on my own power. I'm just drinking, you know? On my own power, I feel so separate from you. I'm always worried about what you think about me, you know, on my own power. So I feel separate from God. But with this program, I get a chance to be present to this power, to this beautiful life. And the fact that if God is everything, that he's in you just like he's in me. You know, God bless you. I love you guys. And thank you for allowing me to share. I'm done.